Here we are, Chapter 1, Whims in Watercolor Pen and Ink with Joanne Sharp. Hello, I'm ready to get started. I hope you are too. This first part's going to be just about paint and brushes, and then I'm going to go through the journals, and then we're going to actually paint a page spread. So I hope that works for you. And those of you who are in the Artfully Inspired Life class this year, we've been spending quite a bit of time on watercolor, but what I would like this class to be is a little bit more focused on specific drawing, specific techniques, and an actual practice in a little journal where watercolor painting becomes a part of our everyday practice and everyday activity. I'm going to just be using these two sets. I'm going to be using this limited edition set by Schmincke. Maybe you have other Schmincke paints in black tins or whatever you have. I just happen to love this one, and this is what I'm going to use. So of course, these have all my favorite colors, and if you go back to where the supply list is all printed out, you will see where you can get these, or again, any kind of Schmincke paints is what I'm going to be using. And these actually come in a little set just like this. You see, I have added a few little more compartments, but they come in these little tiny pans that you unwrap. You get 12 colors in this set, and then there's room for some more colors, some more plastic pans that you can press into this tin. And this is just a nice little set for traveling and just for being a little bit more portable. Love this set. And then my main watercolor set is a Daniel Smith palette that I've created on my own. And this is called, and again, this is in the supply list, the information of what this all is. It's just a plastic palette. And again, I have squeezed out tubes into these little compartments, and plus I glued in a couple little extra pans. These are full pans, and the little tiny ones that come in this set are called half pans. I kind of changed my palette around from the one that I posted in the supply list just because I was just working on some other projects, so I changed it out. But I do pretty much have the same colors. I do use Daniel Smith. I use some Winsor Newton. I also use Schmincke paint in the tube. So there are some of these here. So the way I set up the palette is I go from warm colors to cool colors. And that's how many artists set up their watercolor palette. But again, that's totally up to you. Now, you might not like all these colors. You might only have a palette that has 12 colors. So if any of these colors appeal to you, what you do want to make sure you have, if you're doing, let's say, a 12 palette, 3 warms, 3 cools, 3 neutrals, just some brights, just some of your favorite. But these are actually just my favorite colors. And again, you can take a class from many watercolor artists or many artists, and they're all going to show you a different palette. So there's no right or wrong. Now you see I've laminated my little palette here. I keep it in the paint palette here. I'm going to share with you this particular palette. These are some fun colors by Daniel Smith that are sparkly, and you might want that I'm going to be using throughout the class. And I'm just going to also just take a picture of this particular collection for you so you can maybe choose some of these as well. So you see you have photos of this right in the lesson. And again, you can right click on the photo and print it out. They're all labeled pretty clearly. And again, these are just my particular favorites. You can choose to get a few of these, but I just want to make sure that you're not overwhelmed with what I do, because I've been doing this my whole life and I'm teaching this to you. So there's no way you're going to learn in 12 little lessons what I've completed in 40 years, but I'm going to share with you just ways to make this a practice. Now, the other thing I ask that you have is the practice journal. Is just really important, the mixed media. It's good for taking notes. And I pulled out some pages from one of my other journals that I'm going to put in this watercolor book. And that is to actually play with your paints. Before we start committing ourselves to the journal pages, I want you to be comfortable with mixing and coloring and just understanding which colors have which tones and values. So what I do in my book is I will take a page And especially if I'm working with a tube color, I can squeeze out just a little dot and just kind of play with the color here and just get a really good idea of finding the magic in watercolor and trying my different colors. Now here's another page that I did in December, just some different paints, and you can see there's just like a dot of paint here, and I would just take my watercolor brush and just wet it and just wet the paper, and I can just play and experiment with the colors here. And that brings me to the resource. And again, I do not get paid by Daniel Smith. I am not an associate or affiliate with Daniel Smith. These are just my preferences of what I use in my own artwork. So you might want to invest in a Daniel Smith dot card. This is about $20, and you can get it online, of course, or maybe in your own art store, but it lists every single Daniel Smith color, and there's a dot of paint on the sheet where you can wet it, and you can see which colors that you prefer to have in your own personal palette. So this is how I chose this particular palette, just by going over the colors and seeing the colors that kind of spoke to me in my own preference in my own artwork. It comes like this. It comes plain. So you just get these little dots. These dots are actually put in here by hand. It comes like this, and then you wet the color, and this is how you kind of determine your own personal palette. And again, I will be referring back to the practice journal. We have a practice journal. I'm starting to do this in every class because I also think it's good when you're taking any kind of class. Here's some notes from a class that I just took. Listen to the lecture, and as I'm listening to the lecture in the class, I can paint, and I can actually add some of the techniques to my notes and just have a better understanding of what the class is about. So I just took a class, and the instructor's birthday was the same day as mine, which is kind of fun. So what I want you to do is, as you listen to the videos, and you can stop the video and you can write down the note with a black pen. Maybe you want to paint some of the words, or just make it make this a fun book, a fun reference to understand what's happening in the course. Okay, so there's a little video so there's some instruction on paint. Again, you might have Winsor Newton, you might have any other kind, but I really strongly suggest, if you're investing in this particular class, to get the best paints that you can, because you're seeing me show you this vibrant artwork, and you might have some paint that's a little less expensive and it's really chalky. So you know what, just maybe get 6 or 8 colors, just kind of make it fit for you. But again, this class is elevating our experience a little bit more than maybe some of the other classes that I've had with you. So this is just the next step. So I hope that helps you, and feel free to email me if you ever have any questions or concerns about particular supplies. Let's move on to seeing what we're going to do with the journals, because we really want to get those pages painted. So hang on, I'll be right back with the journals.